Hello and welcome to Family DynamiKs. It's Katherine.
Hi, it's Liz.
It's Ed. And John.
And today we have our mom with us again. Mom, you want to say hi?
It's Mary, Mom.
Oh, there she is. Okay. So we've been trying to get your overall story, your HERstory, as we like to call it. And I think where we left off last time, you had met and married Dad. We got all the way through the wedding and possibly even to the wedding night. I might be
We did, but we didn't get a lot of the juicy details.
We don't need
We're gonna leave those.
Thank you.
We're going to leave those as just your own fond memories. But yes.
So we know that you stayed the night at the Bel Air Hotel.
Very fancy, lady, which
Yeah.
still exists today, and it is beautiful. It's Oprah's favorite, Mom.
Well, your father had class.
Wow, there
he
you go.
didn't make an issue of it, but he did.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know that I
mean,
would
Mom,
have known that.
that we'll just say his car choices are very contrary as we were growing up.
Well, maybe he just
never
didn't have,
made, He never made a show of anything. I mean, it was just, but he knew.
Well, he certainly knew that is considered one of the best hotels. So you had a fabulous night.
So the main reason that you went to the Bel Air Hotel is because you couldn't really go away for a honeymoon because you were starting work like that Monday, right? Or had already started the week before. You were already working, so you couldn't really go away.
Oh, yeah. They gave you like a half Friday for your wedding.
Yeah, they let me off at 2 or something.
Yeah, can you be
Friday.
back on
Yeah.
Monday at 8 a.m., though?
Yeah.
Perfect.
that was.
Perfect in every way.
And this job was,
I was a probation trainee,
it's just so crazy.
probation officer trainee. Yeah.
And so you were just a trainee at this point.
Yeah.
So did you have someone overlooking you? A mentor?
Oh, he was such a pain.
Oh, really?
All right, wait.
Okay, yeah.
Before we get into that, I was really curious. I mean, you might have been as well, Katherine. Okay, were you living at your parents' until basically your wedding day?
Yeah. And I was sharing a queen-size bed or king-size bed with my sister.
What?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
you had moved back from college, back home, towards the end of college, right up until you got married. So it's not like you'd been home the entire time. You had lived at college.
No,
and
I
were
hadn't.
back.
No,
No,
I'd been away my freshman year, and then I was home working at the cafeteria.
Oh, that's right.
That was the dream job. Oh my God. I mean,
Wait, Mom, you don't like sarcasm, and that was dripping in it. How dare you?
yeah, well, my dad was somebody awesome to work for. And
I always thought of him as like the Tasmanian devil. I mean, there's just so much energy.
oh yeah, I mean, and all outgoing.
Yeah.
Well, he was a workaholic.
Do you think, looking back, that he was manic?
It would be like someone who's manic depressive, only they never hit the depressive stage.
Okay, that's curious. So he never really experienced lows
Didn't seem like it.
that you were aware of as a kid.
And he would just stop and then fall asleep because he'd been going 85, 95, 120 miles an hour the whole time.
Okay.
So that was kind of the model.
Maybe he had ADHD.
Oh, maybe?
Okay. All right.
Where did I get it? Oh,
All right.
Attention deficit. Oh, squirrel.
Very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved back your freshman year of college, after your freshman year. Were you immediately then sharing a room and a bed with your younger sister then?
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute. Your age gap is somewhat significant.
7 years, yeah.
So you would have had a different sort of lifestyle, like homework and wanting to stay up later. How did that work?
Well, the house was big. There were other places for me to work than my room.
But
Okay.
then why would you share a room and share a bed? Why was that the setup? Just because that's what you had and that
I think I learned very early on I had no say in it.
Oh.
I remember when my dad went to work as a national sales manager. I think he was on the East Coast originally, but he traveled all the time.
Right.
And so I would just be devastated when he'd leave because he was so much fun when I was a little kid. He was a great dad. And I don't think anybody could put up with me being a big mope and carrying on. So they just said, this is how it's going to be. So get over it, to kind of, It was pretty much hardcore. And I just had to, there wasn't anything I could do about it, Mm-hmm. So, we moved a whole bunch of times. Once they built a house, I think I was in high school, and I got to pick out my wallpaper and the bedspread and the whole thing. It was like unbelievable.
For your own room?
for my own room.
Oh.
And somehow something didn't come in. You know, the guy that was building it didn't, when he ordered it, it didn't arrive on time. So my dad just picked everything different.
Oh, no.
Except for the bedspread, which then clashed with what he did with it. You know, it was like, oh.
So your big makeover room reveal, you walk in, you're like, wow.
I mean, I remember being very disappointed because it was the first time I'd ever been even allowed to say anything about it.
Well, and then it didn't work out.
Yeah, so
Oh.
that kind of got me over that. You know, which ended up being pretty handy because I didn't have much say over it later either.
Oh. Mhm.
Your dad was very much a person who decided things, and then everybody else had to kind of adjust.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's true. Okay, we'll get to that down the line when probably bigger choices are being made in your marriage. But this is the first week of your marriage. So you are now, the day of your wedding, waking up in bed with your sister, and you're going to get dressed in your gown. So my question is, then it doesn't seem like you had that much stuff, but when did you move out? You moved in, you went to your honeymoon, and then went to, what was it, apartment with Dad?
Yeah, like how did that all happen?
We lived in a triplex to begin with, and it was a 2-unit, 2-story back house, and the front was just like a little wedding cottage. It had a white picket around it and, you know, its own roof, and the stairwell was behind our back wall, so there was like really no contact with the other two.
And Dad was already living in this as a single bachelor?
No, we had found that, and I have no idea when. I have no memory of it. I mean, it's probably 10 minutes. I said, oh, yeah, that's great.
Meaning you guys like went out like apartment shopping
I
and found it?
suppose.
Oh, okay.
And you both moved in together on it, like on the Sunday before,
Well,
after your honeymoon?
Frank was an actor. He had time while I was going to work.
Right.
He could spend all day getting the apartment ready, which didn't really happen. But, and I don't know if he moved my stuff over while I was at work. I have no recall on this at all.
You don't have any big shopping memories of like buying furniture or how that all happened?
I remember recovering a studio couch, which we used as our couch.
What's a studio couch?
It's, you know, like wider than a regular bed, and you can put pillows against the back and make a kind of couch back to the whole deal. I don't know.
Oh, wait, do you mean like a daybed?
Daybed. Yeah, that's probably
a daybed. Okay.
Yeah, and so
I've never
was-
heard the term studio couch, so
I
that's
was
interesting.
very proud of myself. It looked really cute.
You did it? You recovered it?
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff like that. I recovered another couch we had. Made curtains.
I have a couch
As
right
time
now
went
that, you know,
Could use a little
Yeah.
attention. I do remember you recovering a
She
chair.
just gave me did not seem like it's going to happen. Mary
no.
the upholsterer is not going to start a new shingle business, hang her shingle out.
I'll tell you, you know, I did things because they were needed. And
Yeah.
Well, you were very crafty. I do remember that.
Yeah, well,
and by necessity is what you're really saying.
That came from my dad.
So you really might be the old school where you left your honeymoon with like that little overnight bag because you were leaving your parents' house. And then you're like never coming back. And so you wake up on the first Monday in your new place.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
All right, so then you got to go to work.
And you
now-
don't have a car, right? Because your father had taken it away.
So Frank drove me my first day, and
He woke up.
Didn't he make you breakfast?
Mr. I love to sleep in, and he's in downtown Los Angeles at 8 o'clock in the morning. He looked around and he said, "There's a lot of people up at 8 o'clock in the morning."
Well, this morning, you know, it's a Saturday morning, and we have a son, 14 years old. Teenagers like to sleep in, some don't. Mark goes to start stirring him at the, you know, bright-eyed hour of 11 a.m. And Mark comes in and goes, "Wow, that is not my DNA." And I said, "It's my dad's." I said, "It is our DNA, and it's definitely on my dad's side." Yeah, so, you know, there's certain of the next generation has taken that sleeping in bug from the family.
Oh, yeah.
Stay up late
I
and
remember
sleep in.
you saying, Liz, sometime in the vague past, yeah, the drug of choice in our family is sleeping.
Absolutely, yeah. Which, you know, I'm not going to knock on wood
Which
because
was totally not me.
no, I know.
Always been a morning person. probably was a good thing. It probably saved our marriage.
Someone had to get up to get all those kids to school.
No, but I mean, downtime at
A little
different
separation.
times, it kind of worked. Dad was a bachelor. He was 30 when we got married. And, he had his little ways. And no
Sure.
one else saw him sometimes for days and days and days to kind of plagiarize AAML.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to jump too far into the future of our storytelling, but we're all aware of the recliner chair hiding in the back of the office where he could take
he did like a nap.
Naps.
He did like a little
a little
nap.
snooze, a little quick midday snooze.
We'll have to get into the store
I have to say,
story
Yeah.
at one point.
to jump way ahead, after he died, I said, listen, Buster. I used to talk to him a lot. And I said, listen, Buster, you've been semi-retired for years, so now it's time to work overtime.
Yeah, you're not off the hook, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just couldn't even imagine I was going to do it. But anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy just to think you would, because today it's very typical people to live together and learn each other's rhythms before they get married for that reason.
Probably wouldn't have.
Well, that's actually very true. A lot of people probably don't get married, or they, they break up because each other's rhythms are so off. And instead of yin and yang, people now more than ever like trying to find someone more similar, because you guys clashed a lot, probably because of those differences. So Dad wakes up on the Monday morning. You have to get in your car.
I have to tell you something.
Oh, yes.
I have to tell you something about the night.
Oh, okay.
So everything's lovely. We went
In
into
quotes.
the tunnel, as they used to do in the older movies. And I fall asleep, and he wakes me up. And I said, what? And he said, you have to move. And I said, why? What's the matter? He said, I have to go to sleep.
Oh, because you were snuggling?
We were snuggling. And I thought that was just how things were. It's wonderful. And he was like, get out of my space.
Well, that was a
Scooch
real
over, lady.
precursor for
That's
your
a
entire
slightly
relationship.
different rhythm.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I mean, he really never had to share with anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody in his whole life. And except for a period of time when he was a bachelor and he roomed with John Burns and several other people I can't remember at the moment. One of them is somebody's godfather, and I can't remember who that is. Whoops. Anyway, and that's the only period he lived with anybody. And it was only
I wouldn't-
couple of years.
I wouldn't consider it the same thing as living with someone, but I'm sure he had a bunkmate in the Navy and 20 other guys in the same room.
No, he was an officer, and they got their own digs, and they got people to make their beds. And, people were assigned if you were an officer.
Really?
Guess it was assigned now.
Oh, my
Oh, no.
So he didn't learn to make the bounce the quarter bed or anything, he had stewards.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, because his childhood was just him and his sister growing up, and they were such a far gap in age.
8
Because we've had
years.
Aunt Judy on before. Yeah.
8 years apart, and she was Barbara Ann. That was a white bread wrap. And it
Oh,
was
like the
blue and white
yeah.
gingham, and there was a picture of a little girl, and she was so cute. She had 2 little ponytails and stuff, and she just looked like the perfect little girl. And that was Aunt Judy.
So what was Barbara Ann was like you're saying like sandwich white bread.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
that
a
was the-
Sara Lee or Little Debbie.
Okay. I
Which
was
makes
like,
total
what?
sense why Dad loved Little Debbie's now, because that was the brand that we had out here. That was the one with a cute little girl with a curly hair on it.
Okay.
So he was out shooting rabbits in the woods, and she was at home being a cute little girl. They had nothing to do with each other. She didn't even develop a relationship with him till after he'd come back from the Navy.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, a few times something would happen that they'd do it together, but there weren't even any memories. I mean, of their-
Childhood memories together.
No.
Well, when we spoke to her, there was some, but it's very much the big distant brother.
Yeah.
That dynamic.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine Dad. There's a great picture of Dad holding a gun as like a costume with you guys.
Oh, that's so funny.
But for the most part, guns were so not part of our family, Southern California and upbringing. So you just talking him out shooting rabbits sounds so like, who are you talking about?
Oh, how funny. Well, that was just a typical kid. I mean,
Or
he had-
back east at the time.
Well,
he
just
had
reminds you-
trains,
yeah.
and he had a BB gun, and he disappeared for days, no days, but for hours, and his mother had no idea what to do with him.
It sounds a little bit like the kid in A Christmas Story where he really wants that BB gun. It's like, that's the right era because he wants to go out and like shoot rabbits in the woods or
Just
whatever.
shoot your eye out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, although
Whatever Dad was listening to on the radio at the time, he was
Right.
very inspired.
Exactly. And I am curious, we're digressing a bit, but how much do you know about Dad's experience in the Navy? Just hearing that he was an officer and
I
that
didn't know that,
was
yeah.
very insightful. I had no idea.
Well, he hated it.
Did he get,
He served his term and he got out.
so
did
was he drafted
yeah.
or did he enlist?
He was in our OTC.
Oh.
So
So
that's
then
why
you
he was
have
an
to then go
officer.
serve, right?
Yeah, and you have to, I think you're contracted to serve for 3 years or
Okay.
something. And he signed up for the Far East as his preferred duty because he figured he'd never go there.
Oh,
he had no interest. And so, well, just take me there and maybe you'll find it interesting. I have no idea. And he always thought he'd go to Europe. And the only time, I'm trying to think if this is true, but I think it is. The only time he ever went to Europe was on that pilgrimage we went on.
To Lourdes.
Yeah, Lourdes and Rome. They were the only two places, and you traveled by train in between, so you saw some things. James and he had something very much in common. If you pointed out something to them, they didn't get it. They would look in the wrong direction, even though you're holding their head in the right direction. And we passed a clear shot at seeing the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and he missed it. That was it.
Because you were on a train and passing by and you were like,
That's it.
there it goes. Okay, whoopsie.
So much for that.
And if all the passengers would look to their left for a right now, and if you missed it, that was the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
And so his his intention was he's going to Paris. Mm-hmm. Never got there.
Oh, no.
Well, it's a story for another time, but I do know that when he was dying, that became something that you were, I don't want to say angry at, but that you were very frustrated because if maybe the knowledge had been more forthcoming.
Yeah, it's very much a patient's right to have the correct information. They were not upfront with
Right.
us at all.
Oh, really?
Not
That's what I'm
at
saying.
all.
It's a bigger story for another time. But
Yeah.
but that is also why Katherine and I, after his funeral, and like I said, there's multiple layers to Paris because Katherine and I really were not sisters.
We were not
sisters.
chummy.
My girlfriend Tara was in Paris for the summer, and I said, I'm going to go visit her. And Katherine said, I'd like to come. And I was like, how is this going to work? We would have been the best amazing race team ever because of the skill set we brought together and we had the best time. But the reason why I felt real compunction to go is Dad loved Tara, my friend. I don't know, just got a kick out of her. And I knew Dad's story about wanting to go to Paris. And I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity because we thought we were going to get to stay at Tara's for free. Like I said, lots of
didn't work out,
layers,
yeah.
big story. We'll get to another time. But so that's interesting. So he went to circle back to the Navy.
He went to Japan. He went to
Wow.
Australia. I don't think we were speaking to China at the time, so he didn't go anywhere there. I don't know if he went to New Zealand, but anyway, he had stories about Japan, different places in Japan, and different cities and ports in Australia, and he really liked it. And I had always wanted to go there, but of course, that's not where we were going to go. We were going to go to Europe, which I didn't really care that much about.
And when was that pilgrimage? Do you remember roughly?
Ginny was a year and a half.
I remember them going because it was like, you're going where for how long? You're to our own devices? What's happening here?
No, you didn't.
I know. I mean, there was actually a babysitter, but
I mean,
No,
legitimately.
your grandmother came out from Philadelphia.
right.
And
What?
she kept the little kids, I guess. No, she must have kept the school kids. And my mom didn't keep the little kids, so I don't know how that worked. But they split them up, the two grandmothers.
Really?
You were split up, and I think we were gone 10 days.
Oh, wow.
That might have been the longest time in your entire marriage that you weren't pregnant at that point. A year and a half? There's almost not
Yeah.
another time where you weren't pregnant. In between births, yes, but a year and a half of like, I had a kid, we might be able to go someplace.
and not be pregnant.
Well, what happened was your Aunt Katherine, who is nobody's godmother because she said she was too old to be a godmother, but we loved her so much. She was just
Is she the one that
wonderful.
lived in Santa Barbara? Mm-hmm. I had such great fond memories just of little like little flashes of memories of
You wouldn't have much.
I know, just little flashes. Didn't you have a great garden?
She had a walnut tree, if I recall.
It's amazing. She really was just an amazing lady. And
Who did she live with? Didn't she live with her
sister?
Oh, that's right.
Who was a manicurist and kind of just
Yeah,
like-
they were big personalities.
Yeah, well, and Katherine was very strong. Yeah, the stories about the pandemic we had here, and
In the United States of America?
yeah, and she went home. She had left home. She lived in Montana. She'd left home, and she'd gone to the big city, and she was ready to start a career, and the pandemic hit. And she went home and she had to bury, I don't know, 5, 6 family
Was
members.
it the oh gosh.
Yikes.
Was it the influenza of
It might have been that, yeah.
Okay, you know what? She reminded me, and this could be a totally wrong vision, but whenever I occasionally think about her, it's like she reminds me physically of Julia Childs, like a big woman.
Yeah.
In a dress, too. I remember.
Just
yeah.
strong and like she would usually I remember there was like something good to eat. I remember having like literally like tea in the afternoon with her. I was like, I could move in with you. Why wasn't that my godmother? Mother? Okay, wait. So
You're ever recurring.
yeah, we got to get on this godmother topic eventually, settle it once and for all. Okay, did Dad, or do you know, did he see any action during the time he was in the Navy?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a period of war.
It wasn't.
Okay.
He escaped.
Between-
He did get a medal because
He did? For what?
because of Korea. Not we were occupying Korea,
Oh.
so he was part of an occupying force. He just didn't. He didn't like sports. He didn't like being in service. I mean, he had his own drama, and he didn't let anybody else beat it. Let me tell you.
It was, you couldn't really talk to him about it because I remember finding some pictures, some black and white pictures, and it was like, oh, that's Dad. And then his hat, which you still have. So there were a few memorabilia items left from it, but it's not a subject he really ever brought up. Like, I don't think I knew he was in the military until I found those pieces. And I mean, I think I was a teenager.
This is so funny. He joined the Navy, and his father said to him, well, why'd you join the Navy? And his dad had like a Go Navy bumper sticker on the back of his car. Was not a bumper sticker guy.
Yeah,
so-
that seems, he was so conservative working
Yeah.
for the bank. And
so he says to his dad, well, you were in the Navy, weren't you? We have pictures of him being on a boat, a military ship. And he said, no, I was in the Army. The Army evidently put them on the ship to take care of the adjusting the costs and to do the
Like bookkeeping, sort
what
of?
he actually ended up doing. I mean, because he was
almost accounting.
yeah, accounting. So he was put in charge of this thing on a ship. And he was really an Army guy. And so Frank is just looking at him like, what?
But I mean,
Well, wait, what about the bumper sticker then?
Who knows?
Oh, okay. I thought there was going to be some funny story. Oh, somebody stuck it on there and I can't get it off. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, maybe a good friend asked him to buy one and support the Navy, whatever.
but I can't imagine Dad in the Army.
Oh.
I think the Navy probably was a better fit for him.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, I can hardly believe.
Although we never went on a boat as a
I
child.
can picture him in the Army and the Navy because he was in a crap ton of Army and Navy stuff, and I've like done
Oh,
some
TV
research.
shows, you
and I'm
mean?
like,
Yeah.
oh, yep, there's Dad. There he is in that scene. All right, great. I'll watch the rest of this later. But like, done a bit of research, and there's one movie that he is in called The Honeymoon Machine. And that's like he brought his uniform with him for that movie.
He tried out in it. He auditioned in it. You're like, all right.
Did you just get off the boat in the actual uniform? He's like, I'm taking this part.
Well, it's, as children, I mean, you've talked about your own father who loved the ocean and would have boats. I mean, we like never went out on the ocean. Dad,
That is so not true.
with our father?
He used to take you out on the lake when we went up to Kachuma. He loved puttering around in boats.
Well, exactly, but
we
not the
went
ocean.
Sailing.
When did we go sailing?
No, I don't think we did it with you. I think we went away.
So I'm saying, like, Mom, no.
Too much.
We were
for
not a
him.
nautical family. I mean, no. It was your generation. And then, listen, I always say there's just so many of us. It was just, I mean, that would be nerve wracking to have that many kids out on the ocean. And
That's
yeah.
probably why. and it's true too that at different phases in our marriage, different things were possible, were just convenient to do or whatever. And if you happened to show up during that, then that was part of your memory. And if you showed up later, you never even heard about it.
Yes, exactly. All right, so now he's dropped you off on your first day of work.
And found himself wondering, what do people do at this hour?
Jeez.
Oh, wait, sorry. I want to go back. Didn't he make you breakfast on your first day of work? Oh my gosh, I remember this story.
He may have.
I'm going to jog your memory and you tell me if I'm right. You said that he made you toast with grape jelly and a soft-boiled egg and put it all in one bowl so that it turned gray.
He was trying to give me, so that's a little anachronistic, because he would be very careful of my eating the right stuff when I was pregnant.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Were you already pregnant, Mom? This is 3 days after your honeymoon.
I thought I would be,
Instantly.
Well, of course.
10 minutes after, And at 3 months, we talked about it. We thought we'd have to adopt.
What? Really?
Well, because
it hadn't happened yet?
Yeah, the belief
3
back
months?
then
Come
was,
on.
yeah. The belief was if you did it one time, God forbid, outside the sacrament of marriage, you're going to get pregnant and ruin your life. So, of course, then when you do it...
That had some veracity to it, because when is a woman most interested? When she's fertile. Isn't that interesting?
Uh-huh.
And so young women could more easily be persuaded or would be open to it when they actually were capable of getting pregnant. And then, surprise, they did.
So you did not get pregnant on your honeymoon.
Or for 3 months.
And were you trying immediately to get pregnant?
Oh, we were just totally open to it. I thought.
all right.
I was. Anyway.
You just started this new career and you're going to immediately tank it.
I know. I sort of did. Anyway. And so I was really doing well. And when they found out I was pregnant, they assigned me to East LA gang work.
Oh.
Now, you can only work with girls. In those days, the women officers only worked with teenage girls and adult women, and then, children. So below the age of 12, they could be a girl or a boy. So I had some dependent cases that were just heartbreaking. But East LA gang work really wasn't an option while you're pregnant.
I mean, did they do that on purpose so you'd leave?
Yeah, of course. They figured out an option I couldn't accept, so they couldn't be, saying that they were discriminating.
They were being sneaky to get rid of you.
Yeah.
So the year was 1964. So you had been working at this job for how many months when you did find out you were pregnant?
More than 6 months.
What would a typical case be? Did you have an office? Did you go out in the field?
The very first case I had was a 35-year-old prostitute. And I looked like I was 12. And I'd gone to a women's Catholic college, and that's,
So relatable. Okay.
well, the most sophisticated and or appropriate for professional work clothing I had. Made me look about 12.
Okay.
I smoked a lot. It keeps the smoke screen up at all
Wait,
times.
could you smoke in your office at work?
I mean, that was totally
The
common.
60s, come on.
Yeah, it wasn't even an issue till actually after you were born.
Yeah,
That
there's
explains
definitely
a lot.
There's a lot of pictures of you with some baby and a cigarette.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple.
Couldn't
for
you even
sure.
smoke in the hospital too?
Oh yeah, in recovery. I mean,
Doctor recommended.
Well, you and Dad were both smokers.
yes.
All right, so wait. Your first case, a 35-year-old, a sex worker is what we call them today.
Oh, okay. Well, they had more. What would you call obfuscating terms in those days?
Yes.
So you wouldn't. First thing, if a child heard it, they wouldn't have any idea.
What you were talking about.
Yeah.
Did she come into your office?
She had been arrested.
Oh.
Probation officers, generally speaking, worked up a history for the hearing.
Okay.
The hearing for the boy. It's many years since I've done this, so I can't remember the terms. But when someone was going to be sentenced, or whatever the consequences were going to be for them, we had nothing to do with whether they were guilty or not. They were assumed guilty, and then you would work up a case and then you'd make a recommendation.
They're assumed guilty. You're supposed to be assumed innocent until, the exact opposite.
Well, they had already been tried.
So now you're going to
This
help.
was for the sentencing hearing.
Okay.
And so it was really interesting. This woman had never been caught before, and she was making good money. It'd be hard to talk her out of this. But the only thing was she'd lost her kids.
Oh, custody?
Uh-huh. And so we worked on it together, and we knew that if she was rehabilitated, she could have a chance to get her children back, and that was enough to motivate her to give it up.
Oh.
Which was pretty amazing. And so we worked it all out. I wrote the report, and my supervisors read it. Oh, somebody had read it first. They said, let me see your thing so I can, before the supervisor has to okay it. And he said, he's not going to okay this. And I said, why? He said, you don't recommend any jail time. And I said, I'm not going to. And he said, you have to, because he would insist on it. I said, then he can insist on it, because that won't do her any good to be in jail with a bunch of people that are, equally as compromised as she has been. And she's had some real difficult circumstances that have kind of pushed her in that direction. I want to see her come back, and she's motivated. So the person who had advised me was kind of like, I don't think this is going to work. And the guy was mad at me because I wouldn't recommend it, and he wouldn't go over my head, which was interesting. She did get jail time, but I didn't give it to her. So she still trusted me.
Oh, that's good.
And that would have been not good if I had, because it was supposed to be what I was supposed to do, that would have just killed the relationship I had with that woman. And she didn't have very much jail time, and I got to follow up on her, and she really got her life straightened out. It was amazing.
Oh, wow. Good for her.
Yeah. The second one I had was a girl who, I don't know, they had her for breaking curfew.
There was a
Breaking curfew.
Oh, yeah. There was illegal curfews.
Well, there is actually a curfew now still for, I think, under 18.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is.
There is?
And
Yeah,
what they'll
okay.
do is they know that they can make that stick. And she was up to something else, which they weren't sure that, the evidence was going to be difficult and they'd be all kinds of trouble. So I'm thinking I'm getting a nothing case, and I end up with a kid who's 16, who's, was breaking and entering.
Wow.
She was really up to no good. And she was pregnant, as it turned out.
Oh.
And she thought I guessed it. But I'd said some things to her that made her think that. And so she thought, oh, well, then she opened up to me. It's like way off my beaten track, what she'd been up to. And she ended up getting married.
Oh.
The court allowed it. Her parents allowed it.
Oh, at 16 and pregnant? Wow, that's really young. But
Yeah.
it was a different time, I
But
guess.
it seemed to go they were thrilled. They'd been at it for quite some time. They were getting worried.
Some people would look at that as an equal sentence. But no, just kidding. So that's very fascinating. You had a real variety of cases.
Yeah.
And then when you found out you were pregnant, did you work for a while before you told them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you probably didn't show till you were 3 or 4 months along.
Oh, it was pathetic. I didn't even look pregnant until 6, 7 months.
Right.
Even with you were number 4. I still was wearing normal clothes till 5 months.
And then you popped.
Yeah. And then the later kids, I think you, Eddie, and John were and somewhat Virginia. I mean, I was ready for maternity clothes in 2 months. It's like, those muscles were gone forever.
So did you ever do any cases with the LA gang, or did you division?
No, I never. I just
the idea
declined.
That sounds like
the
a fantastic TV series.
I know.
Mother Mary in the 60s, solving crimes in the Southern California
LA gang
LA
district.
gang unit.
Well, and gangs, I don't have any personal experience with them, but we had exposure to them because we went to every kind of detention facility that there is, so that we would know what we were recommending when we put that in our case.
Oh.
And
That's very insightful that they would do that.
I have to tell you something funny. One of the things we did is we went to a real prison there's a difference between a prison and a jail. Jails are short term. They can hold you in jail until the case is tried, etc. Really not good. But then federal they have been,
Prisons.
Yeah. They're for felonies, and they're already not going anywhere.
Long-term
except
sentences.
to another prison. So we get to the prison, and we're wandering around, and we get to the kitchen. And so I said, what's this deal about bread and water? Is that really real? And they said, oh, yeah. And I said, really? And he said, well, it's not the kind of bread you're usually talking about. He said, it's a very high protein and dense kind of bread. I mean, seriously, think twice as dense as date nut bread or anything like that. Okay. And so I said, can I see it? And so they showed me. And I said, can I have a piece? So they gave me a really good sized piece, like, a couple of slices of meatloaf. And so, the day goes on, we go home. And I put it on a plate, very nice, and with a big glass of water. Put it out for fast dinner. He didn't think it was funny at all.
Really?
I thought it was hilarious.
What did it taste like?
Yuck.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't imagine.
I really had dinner ready for him, and it probably was smelling wonderful. He goes, what is this?
Oh, gee. So you were working all day and still making dinner at night while he's out auditioning, going to coffee shops, and
getting
maybe
up.
there's some nice crafty, depending on the job that he's got, and then he gets home to some prison bread.
jeez.
Did you at least garnish it?
No. Just as naked as can be on the plate. I mean, it was a good example of my thinking something was funny that he didn't catch at all as humor. Ooh, okay, you think I'd catch on? No. Well, anyway.
So you were only married 6 months, then basically before you realized you were pregnant, or less.
Oh, I knew that. When we were talking about thinking we had to adopt.
At 3 months or whatever.
Yeah, I was already
really?
pregnant. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So it was.
So you didn't have a very long honeymoon phase. I mean, because 3 months in, you were already pregnant.
Well, yeah. I mean, this whole year, let's wait 5 years.
Wait, who said let's wait 5 years?
People say that.
Oh, well,
right.
nowadays.
Right.
Nowadays, you mean.
You know.
Like, you guys didn't even wait 5 months. I mean, so yeah.
No. And probably, it was a serious level of commitment to have a child. We were both thrilled. James was a delightful baby. Absolutely. And little kid. He just attracted attention. He was very cute. And he was very sociable. And, then we had William. And he was only 6 months old when I got pregnant with William.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Close.
Yeah. And so then fast forward somewhat. And I'd be taking the two of them to the park. And James would just walk up and sit down with kids that were playing in the sandbox and, just be right at home with it. And William would come over and push somebody over to see what would happen.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
People used to leave the park when we came.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he was a challenge.
Well, so I just want to think, so 6 months, you were let go in a very, somewhat
Or you resigned or whatever.
resigned. Yeah. And so now, did you not go back to work?
No.
So the financial stability was all on Dad and his acting career.
Yeah, which, he was working quite a bit, not big parts or anything, but certainly enough to keep us going. And
Were you still in your little cute triplex? Or did you have to move now that you're going to add another family member?
No, I think the first child we had stayed in that one. No, maybe we moved before that. And it was in a duplex.
A triplex to a duplex.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember that place very well.
Well, I mean, first of all,
A lot going on.
For those of us that have had kids, or any of you listening, because the first year is basically a blur. You're so delirious. And to think at 6 months you're pregnant again, I mean, I don't know how. I don't remember any of it, Mom. I mean, that sounds insane.
Yeah.
Because you were breastfeeding, which at the time,
Which was
not as popular. It was bottles were a big deal, right?
you were the one that cured me of that.
What?
This was
Oh my!
American style nursing
In the 1960s.
in the 1960s, which was you could start nursing. They wouldn't give you any encouragement or instructions, but that was not a problem, actually, at all. But they'd get you to start introducing foods like
Formula or foods?
cereal and stuff.
Oh,
at a
rice
month.
cereal.
At a month.
At a month.
Oh, I even remember that. And, that's a classic. Those of you of a certain age, you'd give a bite of cereal to it did seem really young. And the kid, like 90% of it will come out. And you're going, this seems counterintuitive, but.
Get used to it, kid. This is what you're getting.
A full belly, whatever it is usually a better night of sleep for a kid. And so that's probably why they encouraged.
Well, no, I think they just didn't believe in nursing. But anyway, so we had
The royal they.
we had the two, and then William, as a baby, would wake up and start fussing and carrying on for 4 or 5 hours at 11:30 p.m.
Oh, no.
I was out of my mind.
Did he have colic, do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
And finally,
Brutal.
he said, the doctors had said that, this should last for, 3 months. And then at the end of 3 months, they said, well, the occasional case will go as far as 9 months. Well, and in the meantime, you have this, rambunctious little 1-year-old.
Who's just a delight.
Actually, he was.
Was he sleeping through his brother crying all night?
Yeah, never bothered him.
Did Dad wake up?
Dad was always good with babies.
Yeah,
He
helping.
really was. He did. He changed James. His parents came out on a tour with some group, and I thought that was really strange because they're going to squeeze us in between Vegas and San Francisco or something. And the baby's fussing, and Frank says, "I'll take him and change him." And I remember his mother looking at him like,
What?
he said, "Come on,
Yeah.
Mom." Well, you remember Grammy. She was not a come on, Mom kind of mom.
No.
No, she was very much more traditional.
Oh, very. So they're gone for ages. Well, evidently, as all new mothers know, there's sometimes when a baby, you start changing them, they do more poop.
And pee.
And it just kind of goes on forever. You suddenly have the sense of I'm never getting out of this room.
Oh, yeah. It can just. Rosie has one of the worst stories ever about in the middle of a changing of the diaper of where that poop project out to. But then also boys, you have to block their mouths sometimes. Why? Yeah, because it's just going to come right back at them. So, yeah.
Oh, it's too bad. Anyway, so his mother evidently was speechless. She was so surprised. Took care of the whole thing, never called for any help,
Dad was very progressive in a lot of ways.
Oh, he insisted that we take a baby care course with Red Cross before we had the baby. I mean, it was his idea. He found out about it.
Would that be CPR and choking? What would they have taught you?
Just how to handle a baby. They give you some experience. Well, he had no experience at all.
Right.
Which is, I remembered bringing up my little brother and sister. Well, of course, that's probably not true. I was only 7. And my grandmother lived with us, and so did my aunt, my cousin, Joni. And so those two had a great relationship, and they loved the twins. And I just kind of watched till they were probably 1.5. They were 3 when we moved out here, and I remember taking them to the park, the two of them by myself.
Yeah, your brother and sister.
Yeah.
I do want, and I think we need to wrap up for today, but I do want to get where we can pick up next time is I am just curious what it was like when you gave birth to your first child, because I think it would be very different than what we experienced today, probably even what you experienced 4 children later, much less number 8, John. So we'll pick up basically, when you become a mother, Mom. There you go.
Which was a career for the ages.
And, oh, geez.
Or
I mean,
one person said, who stood in as your godfather. He's not really your godfather, but
who is my godfather? If you haven't caught on in Family Dynamics, I have a bone of contention when it comes to my godparents. A story for another time, though.
anyway, I was going to tell you. You completely
Stood in
derailed
for
me.
someone stood in for my godfather.
And he described me one time. He said, "Oh, Mary, Mother of the Year, Mother of this year and every other year."
Oh, my.
That's pretty good. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Family Dynamics. Mom, thank you for joining us and sharing more of your HERstory. It's been very fascinating and always revealing, and we're so grateful to be able to do this with you. And we encourage all of you to do this with your parents. Take out your cell phone, hit that record button. Time is a ticking. Get the memories down, people.
Get those stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you listening to Family Dynamics. Follow us on all of our social at Family Dynamics with a K. Become a member of Patreon. Mom, are you a member of Patreon?
No.
Yeah, well, that's why we're safe to just go off and really skewer you.
Yeah,
So.
if you are a subscriber of Patreon, you agreed not to tell our mother about what we say in this
Yeah,
episode.
it's a
She's got to
secret.
pay. She's got to pay.
Oh, and then we have to stop saying mean things about you.
Yes, but
Or not even mean, just like revealing.
Yes, join us on Patreon. Actually, let's get to Therese and hear how it was to share a bed with you, because I am completely befuddled by that reveal. I mean, I need to know more. All right, so thank you again for listening to
Family
Dynamics.
Dynamics.